Hello everyone, my name is Vlad. I am an instructor for Viking Code School, and in this video I will talk about the differences between var, let, and const keywords in JavaScript. Let's start off with the var keyword. This is being used to declare simple variables in JavaScript. So saying something like var name equals Vlad and console logging that will give us Vlad's string in the console. However, all the variables that are declared with var in JavaScript are subject to a process called hoisting, which essentially means that the declaration part of those variables are always going to be moved to the top of their containing scope. This process that happens under the hood allows us to change the order of these two operations and not get an error. Basically, we are using the name variable before declaring it. We get undefined back, but not an error. This is because when the JavaScript engine sees this set of instructions, it actually interprets it as such: var name, then console logging, and then initializing the variable on line 3. Hoisting in JavaScript is also what does not allow a variable declined with the var keyword to have block level scope in JavaScript. Let's illustrate this with an example. We can declare a function x and inside declare an if block. We can say if true. We can declare a name variable here, console log it, and then console log it after we exit the if block. Calling x will give us Vlad 2 times. This is because this set of instructions is actually interpreted as such: var name, the declaration being moved to the top of the containing scope, which for var keywords is function level, and here the JavaScript engine keeps only the initialization of that variable. Let's now look at the let keyword and see some of the differences between let and var. One thing that we cannot do with the let keyword is using the variable before declaring it. So saying something like console log name and then trying to declare it will give us an error. Name is not defined. This is true for const keyword as well. Const and let does not allow a variable to be used before being declared. This is way better than getting undefined back. It's how the JavaScript engine should work, and we should not be able to use a certain variable before declaring it. Another important difference between let and var is that let has block level scoping. So if we come back to our example with if true, saying something like let name equals Vlad, console logging that, and then trying to console log again outside the if block, will give us another error: name is not defined. This is because the variables that are declared with either let or const are not subject to hoisting. So they are only accessible and ready to be used inside the blocks, the declaration blocks in which they have been defined, either the surrounding ifs, for loops, or while loops. If they are defined at the function level, then that's going to be accessible. So moving const to this line will give us Vlad 2 times. Unlike let, const does not allow for a variable to be simply declared but not initialized. So saying something like const name and console logging that will give us an error: missing initializer in const declaration. We cannot just declare a variable with const but not initialize it. We can, however, do that with let and we will get the default value that JavaScript puts for us for any variable that is not initialized, namely undefined. When we use const, however, we need to also initialize it with a value right there. So saying something like const name equals Vlad and then console logging will yield the expected result. Last thing about const is that it pretty much behaves as you would expect. Namely, it makes the value some sort of a constant value. I say some sort because what const keyword allows you to do is make sure that the top level reference is not changed. Let's illustrate this with a simple example. Trying to reinitialize name on line 6 with something else and then console logging that will give us a type error, assignment to constant variable. So the top level reference of the name variable, which has been defined with const, can no longer be changed. It can, however, be changed if it's defined with let. Coming back to const, if we change name to be a person, and person is now an object, which contains the name keyword, console logging person dot name and then changing person dot name and console logging again is actually possible. So we get Vlad and then we get the changed value of something. This is possible because we are not actually assigning the top level reference, but we are changing the contents of this object. This is true for objects as well as arrays. So you will be able to modify the contents of the objects or the contents of the arrays which are defined with const. As a final piece of advice, I think there is little use case nowadays for having something defined with var. I suggest you use the let keyword for everything that has to do with variable declaration and initialization, especially when you have to use and to define something that will be changed over time. For example, a variable inside a loop or something that you know you will assign later. If this is not the case, I definitely suggest sticking with the const declarations for everything else. So if something does not need to change, then use const. If something needs to change, use let. I really hope you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for more information from Viking Code School. Thank you.